America isn't just angry, it's addicted to anger. Every headline, every post, every political speech seems designed to keep you outraged because outrage sells. Politicians use it to win, media uses it to profit, and your brain? Well, it's hooked on the high. We're going to break down the psychology behind America's rage and how you can finally unplug from the outrage machine today on Off the Couch. And welcome to Off the Couch with Dr. Greg, because psychology means something to everyday life. For God's sake, I'm breaking down our own motto. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, psychologist, here with producer Brian Gomez. Hey, Brian.
Hey, how are you guys?
And also Tony Sweet on the board.
Hello, hello.
We are going to deal with one of the biggest concerns that I've had. Why is America so angry right now? But I want to tell you where this came from. I mean, there were a couple of things it came from, but it really coalesced the other day when I was visiting my mother in Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach, if you don't know, is a very nice little beach town here in California, just south of Los Angeles. But it has become a real hotbed of right-wing political activity. In fact, their library's always in the news. The city council's always in the news because they're really going counter to what even many of what the people wants, because they're very afraid. And there's kind of an underbelly of anger that's going on within that city that I would hold has actually always been there. But nonetheless, I was at Huntington Beach and I was at the little grocery store. And well, it's a big grocery store. And I was getting some groceries, putting them in the back of my car, when all of a sudden across from me, there's a woman screeches up. I see a man walking. He's probably, I would say, in his late 60s, maybe early 70s. He's walking, he's carrying something, and he's walking along. This woman comes up along the side of him, and she's kind of driving a beat-up car, flips her car open. Now, mind you, this is about 20 feet from me. Flips her car open, jumps up out of her car, and starts screaming at the guy who's walking. She takes out a fireplace poker, and then she charges over to him, and I'm thinking, oh no, what do I do here? Like, do I have to intervene, or do I have to film this? Am I a witness to a crime? I thought maybe she's just being threatening, which is what it turned out to be, but she became very threatening. Now, what it became clear is this guy he had ridden his bike, and his bike was parked by the little UPS mail store, and it was filled with stuff. So he was obviously doing some shopping and bringing that back. She starts screaming, "You touched my car! You touched my car!" The guy was walking and didn't at first know that this woman was talking to him, turned around, and he looked so confused. He had no idea what was going on, but she was quite convinced he had violated some huge rule. Like he had somehow, by touching her car, and maybe he did touch her car, maybe he didn't, maybe it was just confused identity. I don't know, because I didn't see what came before it. But what was very apparent was her rage, and she was swinging the fireplace poker, and she charged up next to him. Someone from the UPS store came out, and he's all of a sudden going, wait, and he starts filming. So she backed off. That actual action caused her to back off. And then she runs back to her car and gets her car and tries to film the guy. And she's like, turn around. I want to see your identity. Turn around. And
That's such a Karen move.
it is, if you saw this woman, she was young. She was probably, I would say, maybe late 20s, early 30s. But the car, the way she was dressed, it didn't look like the best presentation. That's all I can say. It was like a wraparound t-shirt dress and a halter top. And, in Huntington Beach, people dress very casual sometimes because you just got back from the beach or you're going to the beach, etc. And it was a warm day, etc. So I don't know what her deal was that day, but her rage was out of control. And this poor older man, I thought, what did he do to deserve this? And he looked so confused. And he was clearly, he had a bike. I mean, like, he didn't have a car. There was nothing he could do to really attack her.
Hmm.
So I was like, wow, this is the worst. I mean, I just couldn't even believe I witnessed something like this. And I thought, this is so weird because the previous weekend I had gone to the No Kings protest. And, it was a bit of a love fest. A lot of people wearing costumes, having their little signs, holding up, American flags. I went in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills was the closest protest to me, and I was meeting some friends and just a kind of a nice little afternoon. Well, what surprised me about the No Kings protest was not the protest. The protesters were all very well behaved. The worst violence they did was some chants, I don't know, like, and they had drums and people were singing, whatever. People were waving, holding up signs. But what was so interesting to me, so many cars passed. I mean, it was just nonstop honk, 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 people waving, honking, like, we agree, we agree. But every now and then there was a car. Now, Beverly Hills, if you don't know, everyone's heard of Beverly Hills, but they don't know. Beverly Hills is home to some populations who are actually more right wing, very wealthy, not originally from this country, and more sympathetic to what's going on in this, in the government. There were people who were driving by and flipping us off. And it was only every now and then. They were always expensive cars. They were always younger in, looking. But it was so concerning to me to see this. And I just had to think, what's going on? And to the point, one guy walking by, again, Beverly Hills, it's home to a lot of people who really are more sympathetic to, keeping their money as close as possible. Let's just say that. So I was walking this guy, I was holding a big American flag. And this guy said, and I was concerned about folding it correctly, because with an American flag, there's a correct way to fold it. So I was trying to fold it correctly. And this guy comes up, he goes, "I'm surprised you're not burning it." And I said, "Why would you say that?" Like, it completely confused me in that moment. He goes, "It's just something, it looks like something you would burn." And I was like, "What?" I go, "I'm just trying to fold it." And then he got kind of frustrated with me that I didn't engage with him back. And then he walked on. And I just was like, what's going on with people? So I decided to really look into this topic. But Brian, right before, you said you had an incident at the dog park.
Oh, well, for me, I feel like it's been like a thing that's been building up. And I feel like it's not just this year or the year before. Things have been building up since, the last election that stupid Trump was in, the Black Lives Matter movement, like all this stuff. So when you say that you were so confused, I'm like, this has been happening. There's always like the right wingers that are so upset about people just protesting for like basic human rights, which I honestly don't understand how somebody just, right to live and practice a normal life is so triggering for them, like it's not like we're out here adding laws to like make their lives difficult. It's so confusing for me. So that alone, I'm just confused.
Yeah, no, I call them sore winners. I mean, it's always confused me that the people who really have all the power act like the biggest victims. And this is the same we see with bullies and for people like, I'm the biggest victim. It's hurting me. It's hurting me. So I really looked into this topic because I'm like, I want to explain to myself, why is America so angry right now?
Well, and then back to that thing, like, for me, it's just been building up, and it's more, I think, more frustration. Like today, for example, what you're talking about, there was a guy that got to the dog park. I go to the dog park every morning for the dog, Last time that guy was there, the first time we had that encounter with him, his stupid dog peed on my dog, and I hate when people don't like correct things on the spot or like discipline something like that. And they like soft, like, oh no, bro, like your dog just peed on my dog and my dog is like a carpet. Like, this is a bigger issue than like, I'm sorry. Like, clearly your
This
dog
dog
is
is
comfortable
very
enough.
furry.
Yeah. I
It's
have like a long
husky.
haired husky, So it's not even like the short haired ones that it's like easily cleanable. No, it's like now you literally peed on my carpet.
It's like a sponge.
Yeah. So I saw him today and it's like at this point I can't engage. I can't even speak to somebody because I know the buildup is there and it's gonna be the wrong person that's just a bad day for me that I end up snapping and taking it out on them. And it's not just me. Another guy from the dog park that I know said the same thing. And I feel like you've been feeling it a lot more and it's just the world falling apart around us is not helping the situation.
No, it's not. And I looked at it and what I'm holding is that anger has become the business model of the American public. And so let me talk about that. We're not just frustrated, we're primed to be furious. Politicians have learned that fear wins votes. I've long said that. They will push fear to win votes. Media has learned that outrage drives ratings. We can look at very specific networks that when they can drive outrage, you watch their TV program. Social platforms, social media platforms have figured out if they keep us triggered, we stay online. So those three things have all started to monetize anger. And it's not just online, that just staying online that's the concern. They want us addicted, and that causes us to be more and more divided. It causes us to go into camps. And I really broke down this. So we're being emotionally manipulated for not only profit, but for power and control. And the result is the nation is becoming exhausted, distrustful, and we're at each other's throats. But here's the twist. This is what I'm going to say is I hold that anger is not the real problem. It's the weaponization of anger. It's the business model that's the real problem. So we all get angry. Anger is a natural response. It's a natural response. And we could talk about what anger is. Anger is basically a belief that someone else has broken a rule. That's a belief that you have. It's some kind of perception that someone else has broken a rule, that that person is a bad person for having done it, which intensifies that belief to the entire person, not just their behavior. And then you have a desire to punish the entire person, to punish or teach a lesson. So it's a belief they broke a rule. It's a generalization that they're a bad person for having broken the rule and they need to be punished or taught a lesson. And that causes an outsized behavioral response, like getting out of your ar and holding a fireplace poker and start screaming at a much older man who's clearly has a bike. This was an uneven match if I ever saw one.
And it's crazy because I've been telling friends or like people I know to genuinely just carry pepper spray around because of that situation. Like people are becoming so crazy that it's like, I think especially women should just carry pepper spray on their keychains, on their bag. I mean, you as a, senior citizen to become, I'm just saying like
Brian.
People need to be able to like protect themselves or get people away from them when situations like that occur, because you are seeing it happen and happen and happen, and we're seeing from the other
I'm not
side.
technically a senior citizen, you know that, but yes, I'm. But I still feel quite involved. I still feel quite strong in the
Yeah, if you're not on like a hill or an uneven sidewalk. And hopping. I'm just teasing you.
Very weird. These young people are so weird.
I'm serious though. People I feel like need some sort of protection in the climate we are in, because people are getting out of their car and just acting crazy. If that older guy would have had pepper spray and just pepper sprayed her, it's self-defense. He's just getting her away because she's coming at him with a weapon, and she could have hit him if like the other guy, like you said, didn't come out and record him. She could have still have gone really crazy,
So there's another side of anger, which is rage, which is like the most intense, most expressive form. So also rage is often caused by feeling humiliated. And what's just so interesting to me is how often people who get very angry are often saying, "You're trying to tell me X, Y, and Z. You're trying to tell me I'm bad because I don't want to wear a mask." And it's like,
Yeah.
it's like they're so upset about that, or they become so focused on things, so they feel humiliated that somehow they're wrong. It's a way of thinking that sometimes I have to twist myself into pretzels to kind of understand what people are saying. So let's just talk about the anger economy. The core message that anger isn't random. It's not random anymore. It's being monetized. This is the thing about social media. And we talk about algorithms and we've done other shows about it. But basically they're trying to kind of get you into one of a few buckets, because they know if they keep feeding you the videos that you like, that you're going to stay online more. And if you have nothing but videos, random videos that you don't like, then it isn't as interesting. I realized this because when I sign on to, like, I was setting up my mom's YouTube, and so I was setting it up, and, it just brings up a general selection of videos. And I was like, wow, this doesn't look appetizing to me at all.
To
Of
clean
course.
slate.
Clean slate was kind of boring. There's a lot of celebrity stuff. I mean, stuff I'm not really interested in. Celebrity information and, how to do your nails and hair and whatever. I'm like, oh, this just doesn't look interesting to me at all. And I thought, how interesting that my video feed has a lot of interesting things to me, because the algorithm's always feeding me when I'm on YouTube.
It's funny because I've had to like stop my boyfriend from like doom scrolling, where I'm like, dude, I see how upset you're getting, or like I see when he's like on a roll of it, because he'll like post one thing and then like 30 minutes post another thing, and I'm like, oh, he's doom scrolling right now, that it's like, it's not good for you. Like, you're just being upset in the fact that they're winning because you're reposting what they're feeding you,
You're reposting what they're feeding you. So America, the country, is conditioned now to be angry. The people, let's walk through this. Anger, they're conditioned to be angry. Anger focuses our attention. When you get angry, it's like having blinders on. You focus your attention. That attention equals profit. When you have your attention focused, you're very intensely focused on one thing that they then can monetize. It becomes profit for them. Either you're spending time on it, you're buying a product, you're voting for someone. It's something they're getting because you're so focused on it. And that profit equals power. So the anger focuses attention, which equals profit, which leads to power. So politicians use outrage to mobilize fear. Fear equals turnout. And that's why it was so interesting to me, though, the new King's rally. I was kind of like, whatever. I'm not a protest person. I don't like to go to protests in general. But what kind of tripped me was people kept saying, the Republican politicians kept repeating this line, and on TV and certain TV networks kept repeating this line, that it's the Hate America rally. And I'm like, I don't think it's a Hate America rally. In fact, this is the very principle the country was founded upon. No kings. This was no king. That was the very principle the country was founded upon. So I'm like, this is the absolute opposite. And so I wanted to go and show my patriotism, because these people were trying to push a lie of hating America when it's absolutely the opposite.
And it's crazy that everything they're doing is like anti-patriotism, of the way they're destroying this country.
Yes.
Everything that they've been doing is literally the opposite of being patriotic.
Well, I mean, not everything. I mean, there probably are things that are quite patriotic. I just can't.
Like what?
I don't know.
Oh no, you've had a whole year of that and you still can't think of it.
I just don't have one at the tip of my tongue.
Oh, how interesting.
That doesn't mean they don't exist. Media uses outrage to retain viewers. Rage equals ratings. Social media uses algorithms to amplify anger. And you think you're getting mad at some group like immigrants, trans people. It's their fault. They're bad people. I've had to deal with this in therapy, Oh, trans athletes. And I'm like, what, how does this touch your life?
You're like, are you even an athlete?
I mean, it always surprises me that that's like a really driving issue for some people. But really, you're the one being manipulated because the people that, let's say, are so concerned with that are readers of particular
Point of view.
points of view. Yeah, that's right. They listen to Barry Weiss's podcasts, or they read Wall Street Journal, or those types of things. So it's just interesting to me, because they just reflect it kind of blindly. These are intelligent people, so.
Are they intelligent people? Because I have a really hard time believing that when their beliefs are so stupid.
No, I do believe they are intelligent. I don't think
In what way intelligent? Because
if you're doing emotional intelligence, that's different than intellectual intelligence.
So what's
So
happening?
are you
Is
talking
it
about
emotional?
intelligence?
I don't know. I'm just questioning the intelligence overall,
I
because
think
at
there's
some point,
different intelligences. There's social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and there's
I'm having
intellectual
a hard time.
intelligence.
I don't know how you can just break them up into different categories. I don't know. Is that how?
Yeah, there's a concept called general intelligence, the G, general intelligence. It's supposed to encapsulate all of them, but it's really weighted in intellectual intelligence. That's another show. That's another topic.
Yeah, because I'm very confused with how so many intelligent people have such backwards way of thinking.
Well, let's go. Let's say what's going on. Number one, emotional contagion. It's the unconscious spread of emotions from one person to another. This is like, I've talked before about how anxiety works. We can go into a crowd and you can introduce fear in one side of a crowd and it will start to spread through the whole crowd. It's really fascinating. So humans really can catch emotions. They catch it through facial expressions, tone, social media posts. They can look at physical stature, etc. And anger itself is contagious. That makes sense. We need it for the battlefield. And you can catch it just by scrolling. So that's the doom scrolling, which you said you try to urge your boyfriend not to do. We'll talk about that because I don't think it's completely wrong to go toward your interests, but maybe we need to start to figure out ways to limit our access. We'll talk about that. The next one, which is very similar, why I'm talking about this, is the availability heuristic. That's a mental shortcut that makes us judge how common or how dangerous something is based on what we can easily recall in our minds. So basically, availability heuristic is if I'm being fed a certain message over and over, we assume things that we say, oh, that's how it is. Oh, they're trans athletes are trying to get into every sport and every school. Like it's such a plague,
Is that under emotional intelligence too, or is that critical thinking?
Well, that is a lack of critical thinking, if you ask me, because you can just.
And is that part of emotional intelligence, or is that just general?
Well, that doesn't matter. So our brains assume the world is more dangerous and divided than it really is because we'll see constant stories about these anger and outrage things. I actually thought Fox News is really good at this. Fox News put videos of Portland from a protest that happened in 2020 or something, and they had a few weeks of this group took over this building, and they just focused those videos, and they were showing them in this year 2025 and saying that's what was happening in Portland, and people believed it. Meanwhile, what's going on in Portland? People dressed in inflatable costumes and doing naked bike rides. The protests are going quite counter to the whole thing. So it's kind of fun to watch. In LA, we saw that they had the 2-block area of ICE protest that was for a couple days, and they replayed that over and over again. These are a couple of Google Waymos getting burned. Man, they showed those 24 hours a day for weeks. It would look like that's nothing but Waymos getting burned in Los Angeles. By the way, when I went to the protest, I was going to take a Waymo, and guess what wasn't available to go to that area? You could take your Uber, though. So if it's always in your feed, your brain thinks it's everywhere. And there's one more thing I want to point out as part of this is negativity bias. This is another big one. We're primed to focus on the negative. So the human tendency is to give attention and emotional weight to negative information over positive information. There's a ratio I teach couples because it's true in relationships is that one negative act equals to get rid of one negative act in a relationship, you need to have 5 positive.
You have said that before.
So it's the 5-to-1 ratio. So bad news grabs us faster and holds us longer because it's once helped our ancestors survived. When there was a tiger at the door, you didn't worry about like, oh, should I fold the clothes if they were doing that?
And now we're scared of a trans person outside.
Oh my God. So today it just keeps us glued to conflict and controversy. I challenge people, how many trans people do they know? I actually do know some trans people, but it's, first of all, none of them are athletes, I'll tell you that. The other is that, they suffer more than anyone. I'm just like, come on, man.
My whole thing is like most of the people that are upset about like trans people in like sports or anything don't even play sports.
That's right.
I'm so confused. I'm like, they're the fattest thing in the world. And you're like, why are you worried? You can't even run down the block.
Well, they think danger is at their doorstep. Like I said, they think that the saber-toothed tiger is about to enter their cave. Oh my God, the saber-toothed tiger wearing a wig and heels is trying to get into their cave. And they're worried about that. So they keep glued. That's a negativity bias to conflict and controversy. We're wired to watch the car crash, not the sunset. So if a car crash is happening in front of us and there's a sunset, we're focused on the car crash. Let's face it, when we all drive down the freeway, what happens when all of a sudden traffic comes to almost a stop? It's a little fender bender off to the side of the road, but everybody has to slow down to see what happened. They're all bending their head.
Yeah.
So, okay. So emotional manipulation is the political playbook. Politicians sell fear because calm people don't click, vote, or donate. Remember Biden said, and I was very attracted to this. I don't hide where I stand. I was very attracted. Remember he said, I promise you 4 boring years. Exactly what he gave us. They were pretty boring. And he also accomplished a huge amount. But what did people think? They believed what they were told. He didn't do anything. Blah, blah, blah. They had so many accomplishments. It kind of blew my mind. I mean, they were a very productive presidency, but I'll bet most people would say Trump is doing more because what he does do is he continually brags and he does really, really outrageous. He does ceremonial things. He does things that put him on TV. He, like tearing down the White House. He gets a lot of views. He's great with PR because I think, there is an operational undercurrent here, which is basically he's trying to keep our attention focused on anything but the Epstein files. They don't want the Congress to go back, et cetera. The Epstein files. I mean, it's kind of become almost odd because what they seem to be doing is that seems to be the threat. They want to get people to forget about it before they restart the government. And I'm like, wow, this is a total attention game that's going on right now. I just have to. At least that's my theory.
Do you think if they were even released, people would even care? Because at this point, I'm so like, America girl, clearly we know what's happening.
They don't care. He got a bunch of felonies. We did a whole show on this, and people are still with him. In fact, they hold up signed vote for the felon. They're into it. They like his mugshot, So yeah, they don't care if he is either a pedophile or supported pedophiles. I don't think that that's a concern, honestly. I mean, it may be a concern for people on the fence, but I don't think his court supporters are going to be. I mean,
bothered. Yeah.
Well, I think that there's very much I'll talk about in the next one. So that's in-group, out-group tribalism. And I think that that's actually quite at work here. Let's talk about this. So Trump pushed, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Remember that thrust messaging Democrats push that democracy will end if they win. And I like the Republicans push back on this a lot. They're like with the No Kings. They're like, they couldn't even protest if we didn't have a democracy. Well, they're correct, but people are concerned about losing it. But they're not that black and white. I just love how black and white people get. But if you believe the absolute, then you're going to get screwed. If you believe Haitians are eating cats and dogs, I mean, come on. Both sides escalate language to apocalyptic levels, and panic persuades. Identity politics weaponizes fear. The people that cry about identity the most, which is, the people that say, identity, they seem to be the ones that are weaponizing it the most. Let me talk about the things here. In-group, out-group tribalism, that's what the us versus them. That's as old as it comes. The bias is ancient. Tribalism makes us feel safe, even when it makes us wrong. And we get anger at people who challenge it. Like, your team is bad. No, your team is bad. This isn't sports. This is LA versus San Francisco.
This is our government.
What?
This is our government.
This is our government. And, in sports, it's fun. It's like fun, or, different things like our city's better than your city. That's LA, San Francisco. I don't think LA care. I mean, we don't care, but it's kind of a fun rivalry. LA, New York is really the rivalry and I'm like, oh yeah, I love New York. I'd much rather live out here, but I love New York. It's not that I have, anyway. But it makes us feel safe, even when it makes us wrong. And I remember a client of mine was saying about Trump, he's not just a bully, he's their bully.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a thing, is they feel he's part of their tribe. The next one is threat response. The threat response limbic hijack. This is a theory that is true, but I hate it because it makes things physiological, and I'll run through it. When the brain's emotional center, it's the limbic system, takes over moments of perceived threat, we override logic and reason. You need this because if a saber-toothed tiger is chasing after you, you can't go, where should I run? Left or right? What should I do? This or that? You have to make a decision. And what most people, and including me when I had a life-threatening circumstance, it's like time slows down when you have to make it. It's the weirdest experience. But what's happening is your brain suddenly becomes so hyper-focused. You start to think very quickly, and you can make a decision better. But what's happening with something, if you have a car crash, have you ever just like slammed on your brakes? That's because you see it instantly. And you're like, should I slam on my brakes? That might be good or bad. You just slam on your brakes. This hijack floods us with adrenaline and cortisol. That fight or flight thing that you have going on. It's actually fight, flight, or freeze, but it causes you to either react or to stop in place. Even when the danger is just a headline or a tweet, this can happen. And your brain can't tell the difference between a tiger and a tweet sometimes.
And is that emotional intelligence too?
I mean, you have to, at first you have the reaction, and then you have to undo the reaction. That's literally what you have to do most of the time. And then there's moral panic. This is the pearl clutching. This is the one that bugs me the most for whatever reason. It's a collective overreaction to something perceived as a moral threat to society's safety and values. It's like, oh my God, this is awful. It's often triggered by media and amplified fear-based narratives, moral panics. We have villains, we have victims. It oversimplifies complex issues. This is the whole trans thing. I mean, my God.
Or the immigration
The
thing.
immigrants, oh my God. It's just, and the thing that cracks me up about the news is they're like, I didn't think it would happen to Rosa, who works at the diner. I didn't think it would happen to my gardener. I didn't think it would. But I mean, my God, people.
And is that emotional intelligence too? That they didn't think it would happen.
You can put it all into emotional intelligence if you want to wrap it in one big blanket. Yeah. I mean, emotional intelligence is just kind of a concept to say that you can understand and manage emotion. We'll come back to that because that is the solution, really. So every generation has its witches to burn. We just do it mainly online now. That's why I'm like, get offline. I was talking to a service guy who came to my house yesterday, and he had told me that he was robbed at gunpoint for his dog.
Oh, I have seen stuff even that happened in West Hollywood. There was a clip circulating that it was like daytime too, that you see the guys get out and like hold a guy at gunpoint, and he has his dog, which sucks because like we remember we had that situation happen like a year or two ago when I was at the firm where they robbed the guy in front of me.
Yeah.
When I was walking Cora. So now it's like I seeing that recent clip, I'm like, oh, it's just so annoying because now I'm like I have to literally look out and make sure that, you know, nobody's slowly coming by to a stop. And
It's insanity.
And people usually do stop. That's the thing. When they see Cora or if I'm like carrying her, they genuinely stop or take pictures that I'm like, now I have to
Now you have to be conscious.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because he said he had a desirable dog as well. I won't say what type. He came out. There were 3 people involved in the crime. 2 of them had guns.
Yeah.
They made him give over his dog, and they said one put a gun right to his head and said, you make a decision, the dog or you, like, or something like that. And the guy's still clearly traumatized by it. I felt very bad for him. And he said the people online, he goes, some people are so supportive, but some are so mean.
I'm sure.
And just attacked him for what? Like, who knows? I mean, people just go all over the place. So it's very upsetting to see that. So just to go through, I have the whole thing. The outrage has become entertainment and media. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, social media platforms, they're attention whores. They're attention whores. And it's interesting when they try to go more staid, more boring, then we say, oh, they have low ratings. Nobody watches network news anymore. But network news is just sort of news. It's just, they just sort of play all the same stuff and maybe have like a human interest story at the end.
Isn't it just weird how like these people up here are using all these different sources to like manipulate and
Yes.
use it as like a board game?
And manipulate's the right word, Brian.
It's just weird. Like I don't know. I guess money is the whole end game for that, or
Money and power.
money and
Power and
power.
power. They ignite, not inform. So they frame the argument, they pass judgment, and then that causes you to feel anger. Remember, when you feel negative judgment about somebody, that'll cause you. It's part of the anger rubric. And then we have breaking news. That's the permanent adrenaline drip. Breaking news, and I fall for it. I see breaking news. Oh, what's this? Breaking news. Lance Armstrong. Blah blah blah. Oh, isn't that interesting? I fall for it. I admit. They sell to different tribes. Fox and MSNBC sell to absolutely different tribes. Social media pushes rage for engagement. I think Fox is really good at this stuff. I mean, if you really want to say, if you want to give them high praise, it's that they're extremely good at presenting manipulation and they downplay positive information and upplay fear-inducing information. So we're not informed, we're stimulated. And I want to go over the confirmation bias, which we talked about a million times. That's a tendency to focus on information that confirms your existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that challenges your beliefs. Keeps us comfortable. We have that illusion of certainty. I'm right. Here it is. I've seen it in all these different things. These are the people, I'm doing my own research. When they do their own research, they're basically just searching for things that confirm.
God. Yeah.
We don't look for truth. We look for validation of our beliefs. Echo chambers, which we all know what those are, it's the algorithm. It just, things feed back to us the same beliefs. And it goes, remember the availability heuristic, what's available to us, what we see repeated over and over is what we believe. So echo chambers don't broaden your world, they build a cage around you. But the other is that there's an addictive quality to this because these operate through a principle of intermittent reinforcement. It actually a variable ratio reinforcement technically. It's basically information is a slot machine. Sometimes it pays off a lot, sometimes it pays off a little. But if you watch, you're going to eventually get a payoff and you know it. So you keep going back to it. Keep going back to Instagram or to X or to Facebook, because if you watch, you'll get a payoff. You'll get a little payoff, you get a big payoff. Sometimes you'll get a jackpot. Sometimes you'll just be bored, but you'll probably get a lot of payoffs. So variable ratio reinforcement for the geeks, intermittent reinforcement for the regular folk. We never know which post is going to get a like, share, or reaction, and that unpredictability creates addiction, and outrage gives the biggest hit. That's why we're so attracted to. I mean, that's why they push it, because it's very attractive and it pays off big. So you're not addicted to being right. You're addicted to the rush of being outraged. So I'll go just to basically, this is power and clarity illusion, that because focus doesn't mean clarity. Well, anger brings both power, feeling of power, and a clarity illusion, the blinders on. So we feel powerful, but that outrage that we feel, that fight or flight, will eventually cause us to be exhausted. They call this the chronic anger exhaustion. Essentially, people who are angry all the time, they're tense, they want to sleep. They get tired, they're fatigued. That exhaustion then causes people to go, oh, I'm too weak to do it myself. Someone needs to protect us. And then the draw toward authoritarianism. Someone who says something like, I alone can fix this. And then everyone turns to them. So we become more childlike, blind in our following, and we become like puppets. So this is kind of interesting. I think that there is actually a through line to have. You're feeling your shoulder right now, Brian. Are you feeling that?
Oh, no. I mean, I just been thinking while you were talking how I used to get really angry. I still get angry now, but like I used to have like a really bad issue with anger, and like I worked a lot on it. And like you said, you get exhausted from being angry. It's true. Like if you ever get angry and can have a moment of reflection while you're angry, and you feel how your body has changed from the moment before you were angry till when you are angry, to where like my temperature completely changes. Like I will start sweating, like everything, where it almost, like you said, the blinders come on and it's like I'm blinded. Whenever I like calm myself down, I'm like, whoa, where did I go? Then I'm like, I guess it's, the emotional intelligence and how to regulate your emotions. But it's like, how do you do that when like the bad guys are literally being bad and breaking all the freaking rules in our country and like attacking and coming after every single like human right we have?
Yeah, I think you need to be clear about that there are bad things going on, and that it is right for us to be concerned.
Angry or concerned? Because it's big stuff that's happening.
I'm telling you, you're going to benefit more from being concerned until you need absolute anger. If you stay in anger, you're not going to have the energy to combat what's in front of you. But if you can only use the anger when it's absolutely needed, and to be very concerned, like I'm concerned that X, Y, and Z is happening, it will preserve some of your anger, but keep you focused on what's real and what's right. This is going toward another principle of emotional management called from the Yerkes-Dodson curve, that there is a level of emotion and stress that will help us perform the best in every situation.
Oh, I know you've talked about that.
And if we have too much of any emotion or too little in a given circumstance, that means we're not going to perform our best. So it really is up to us to manage our emotions, especially when we're being told constantly that the house is on fire. We're constantly being told that. And it's causing people to be okay with people being rounded up on the streets. I mean, by masked men who are unmarked, masked men in unmarked cars, and throwing people to the ground who are selling tomatoes or selling, tamales at the side of the road. I mean, people can see where I stand and certain, but I'm very much against what's going about these kinds of tragedies that are happening. But I also focus on, human rights, etc. I really believe in this country and the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. I strongly believe in the system that we had set up in the three branches of government, and I'm extremely concerned that things are being whittled away and powers being consolidated in the executive branch, and that's due to the actions of both the judicial and the House legislative branch. Forgot the name there for a second. But the judicial and the legislative branch are sort of abdicating. They're kind of saying, oh, we're going to take our hands off for the moment.
But that's my whole point. Like, when do we become angry? When we're not allowed to be angry anymore?
That's
because we're losing, like, even the right to protest. It's weird. I've been having issues with protests that I've heard been happening. Even the last No Kings protest before this one recently, the one that was happening in WeHo, that they like got permits or are requesting permits to protest. That I'm like, what? Like, I don't think that's the whole concept of like protesting. Like,
they do it all. The funny thing about these, unlike, say, the people that stormed the Capitol, the funny thing about these particular protests is they're all done so legitimately, so low key,
but
so
we not
sweetly.
That's like an issue though, because I'm telling you, like the last protest that I went to, they were even instructing us not to get off the sidewalk onto the street.
They did that with us too.
Dude,
they had monitors. Keep the sidewalk clear.
What a protest is, it's to disrupt. I'm so confused where we lost the actual knowledge of how to protest and how to disturb the way the life is flowing.
The thing is,
or am I wrong?
It's just there's such a double standard. The thing, when you have you could have people storm the Capitol, people have no problem with them all, people beating up cops, even cops ended up dead, and it's okay because now they're all pardoned and that's okay. They made.
You see my issue where I'm like, how are we having
to
follow even the weirdest? Why are we even?
I still think it's important. I think it's still important to do because that's a double standard. I don't think you cross easily. I don't think that is one that you go, okay. I do believe that they're playing by different rules. Like,
they're not playing by rules. That's my
I do believe
about
I do believe that, like, the legislators, these are the Congress and the Senate, if one side is playing by one set of rules, the other side can't go, we're going to play by the old set of rules and hope that you come around. They have to say, you know what? We're going to play by your set of rules too. And that's why our country is shut down at the moment. So basically they're saying, the one side is saying, Democrats, you should play by your old set of rules. Why aren't you playing by your old set of rules? And they're kind of saying, we're now going to play by your set of rules. And it's causing the country to be shut down because they're saying, we're not going to budge on this till you actually meet with us to negotiate. And they're not doing that. They're refusing to meet and negotiate, and the president's not getting involved, which every shutdown ends when the president gets involved. It's like the two kids are fighting. They're not going to stop fighting till the parent gets in the room.
The parent is not
in the room. And the parent is traveling right now. The parent is off in another country watching a ceremony. So let's talk about breaking this cycle. I know this was an intense show, but there is some hope.
Is there?
Yeah. And I think, the protest, to go back to your protest message, if I may say, I went through the AIDS crisis. And one thing that was really interesting to me is we did have really intense protests. And there was a thing that happened, and I don't know if you remember this, Tony, you might be too young, but when you'd be in a bar, they would have protests down the middle of Santa Monica Boulevard, and people would scream, out of the bars and into the streets, out of the bars and into the streets. And that all these people would crowd out into the streets, and they would just have this impromptu charge that would happen. And because, of course, there were people dying constantly.
And you don't think that kind of energy is needed?
I do think that kind of energy is actually quite helpful. But
That's why I'm
you know, the
confused with
way
the
they
whole
did everything, I say they use nonviolent, it's a term, it's nonviolent political protest, essentially. It's like where you go and you sit in front of a politician's office and refuse to leave until, they actually meet with you. So it's that kind of thing. So I want to talk, we only have a few minutes, and I want to talk about how to break the cycle. You can't control what's going on around us. You can't control the system. You control your reactions to the system. How do you do that? I actually made a long handout that I thought was very succinct and very pithy, very short, but I realized it's too many things for us to even go over today. So if you want that, please go on the youtube.com/Dr. Greg, find the show, which will be, Why is America So Angry right now? And find the handout, go to the handout, click on it, and you'll see. But for right now, here are the short ones. The tools for listeners: reduce your emotional input, limit things like doom scrolling. There's a principle in psychology which is called stimulus control. Stimulus control is where you control what you're seeing. So I really intensely limit social media. I mean, probably I don't do more than 5 or 10 minutes at the most a day.
Well, how do you do that when your work? Well, at least mine, I have to be on social media all the time, like constantly.
What I would never do is click on one of those rage bait articles, no matter how tempting it is. What I would do if I were you is go into a separate window into like Safari or Chrome or one of the other browsers and search the story. Or we talked about those news filter services where you can actually see what the reality is about a story.
Well, like for me, I'm talking more about like I'm having to be on Instagram constantly.
Yeah.
And I'm usually either doing stuff for you or for fashion stuff. But it's like I also follow people that are like on the ground reporting about like the ice raids and stuff happening to, immigrants and everything.
No.
And it's like I'm also not going to turn my back on like what's happening because these are my people that
you don't have to turn your back. You can, if you want, you can limit their messages. There's a way to do that on Instagram and the other forms. You can limit them, and you can, kind of still follow them and still go to their feed, but maybe not always have it appear in yours. I'm just saying this is one. Stimulus control. Number 2 is to pause before sharing outrage. Don't send a story out until you've counted to 10. If you're angry, count to 10 first. And in fact, if you're very angry, count to 100.
And sometimes you can go to post the story and then delete it before you post it. Because I've gone to that point where I'm so upset that I'm like, oh, I need people to see this and like, be as upset as I am. But then it's like, oh, I have to think about work and everything else I do too. That I'm like, okay, this isn't worth posting then, and I have to talk myself out of it pretty much.
The next one is I think controversial. I said DEI your news content, diversify your information diet, have more critical thinking rather than conforming thinking. How do you do that? You try to look at alternative sources. I've done this from day one. I still always try to look up alternative sources, and I also fact check stuff all the time. So I try to make sure that what I'm looking at is the truth. And then I form my own opinion about it. Like what's going on at the White House, some people are absolutely cool with it. I'm not. I think it's emblematic of what's happening in the United States. We're taking a bulldozer to the White House and we're going to build something big and gaudy that's only going to serve the richest, wealthiest, most powerful people. That's concerning to me. So SNAP benefits are stopping. I'm sorry. I'm concerned about all of that. Hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, they will have come to their senses and SNAP benefits have been restored. That's food stamps. And it's extremely concerning to me. I've never been on public assistance myself, never. But come on, man. This is not just humane, but it's a critical economic driver of our United States. I don't think people realize if you make the real economic argument, you're going to want to have things like access to health care, maybe even universal health care, Social Security. You're going to want to have SNAP benefits. You're going to want to take care of your people who are hurting the very most. Homelessness. If you really take care of those, it really, economically, at least everything I've witnessed over all my senior citizen years, at least according to you, I've seen that really does help. So I'm more in that camp, and it's oddly
in the intelligence camp.
I'm continually working on improving my intelligence. So also, I want to go to strengthening critical thinking. Ask yourself, is it true? Do the fact check. There are a lot of services. Snopes was one I like, but there are lots of others. Does it help? You could say, is it true? Does it help? Is this information helpful? And who benefits if I react? Because often who benefits is the service that's feeding it to you. They want you to like and subscribe. They want you to put comments. It creates that whole ecosystem, and videos can cause that to happen too. I've resisted ever doing something like that myself, but I think I've suffered as a result, that I don't go more toward rage bait.
I know. I've actually thought about that too. I'm like, what if I just make a TikTok and lie and like just do the most crazy out of control things just to get followers and traction?
It would.
Honestly, I've been thinking about it just to even think of like an experiment, like how well it would do. I've even thought about pretending to be like a conservative or like a Republican and go like try to see if I can really persuade people if they're so dumb about it.
I don't think you'd be the first. There are lots of people who've actually done that, and they have made money.
That's why I'm like, I could do a little cult for them, you know?
The problem with that is you start to believe people get high on their own supply. That's the problem. So I don't recommend that.
That's what I've heard, and that's the only thing stopping me, because what if I believe myself and my craziness and the lie?
You'll start to believe your own craziness. So regulate physiology first. If you want to regulate emotions, regulate your physiology. And we've talked about this before. It's temperature, intensity, pressure. Change your temperature. Go splash cold water in your face. Hold a warm cup of tea. Something to change your temperature. If you're very angry, jump in a pool. Like jump in the shower. That'll calm you down. Intensity is like doing something like jumping jacks or push-ups or going for a walk or a run. And pressure is like just doing any kind of wall sit or pushing, like if you're really constricted, just do it in one place. But the bottom line is you want to change something about your body that will actually start to change your mind, and choose curiosity over certainty. Always stay curious. Always ask the next question. That actually changes minds more than certainty, by the way. So
I try to question everything nowadays. I don't care what it is. I'm like, I don't know. I need to know more about whatever they're saying.
So we can do better, and it starts individually. The real enemy is manipulation, not our neighbors.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we're going to stand different there. I believe that it's manipulation, not our neighbors. The anger is valid, but being used is not valid. Being manipulated is not, it's not right. So we need to have emotional sovereignty. Let's talk about what that is. It's when you take responsibility for your emotions. You don't say, he made me angry. You say, I got angry because of, I saw something and I made myself angry. If you really want to take responsibility for anger, say, I made myself angry when, I saw the White House being torn down. Because that's actually what's happening. So take responsibility for your emotions, understand them, respond to them from a place of internal authority rather than reactivity. Use emotional management. We could go on and on. We probably should do many shows on emotional management. I know I've encapsulated many, many concepts, and I've only given them just a little bit of a, touchstone here. So there's much more to talk about. Remember that having a regulated or calm or emotionally managed mind is actually a revolutionary act in 2025. Do not allow yourself to be the whipping boy, to be the puppet of emotional manipulators. Don't do it in, in a relationship. Don't do it with a friend group. Don't do it with social media. Don't do it with television. Don't do it with all these things. America isn't really broken. It's just dysregulated right now. So let's do our part to calm it the fuck down. And that really brings us to the end. So if you have any thing, please put in the comments, when's the last time anger hijacked your day? What news sources leave you the most triggered? It's going to be different for different people. Have you ever shared a post you didn't verify because you were heated? Who benefits when you're outraged? And what would America look like if we regulated before reacting? It's interesting. I'm interested to see comments because I'm sure people who are angry at me for what I said will react. They'll be the ones to react.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm just curious to see how it all goes.
And then me calling them idiots on the other side. So
then they'll be angry at you.
Yay! I'll start my TikTok so they can follow it.
So thank you for joining us. This was kind of a different off the couch, I have to say. But I just was so motivated to say, what the hell is going on? Really need to.
We're living in it right now.
If you saw yourself in any of today's patterns, please take a breath. You're not broken. You're just human. Remember, insight is the first step, but action is what moves the needle. And so does social support. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. That would mean so much to us. And don't forget to rate, review, follow Off the Couch with Dr. Greg, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. You heard me talk about the handout, youtube.com/Dr. Greg. Also, we have a bunch of resources. Gosh, I didn't even talk about all the things I wanted to. I realize this is a huge topic. Hit me up on socials at Ask Dr. Greg or Brian too. This is Dr. Greg, Brian, and Tony bidding you farewell until next time. Be present, be flexible, and be kind.